Shocking new evidence has emerged about the existence of Jesus, and the most exciting part is that we may finally have a true image of his face. Recent scientific studies on the Shroud of Turin have uncovered fascinating new details, leaving us to question everything we once thought we knew. But before diving into the truly remarkable findings, don't forget to subscribe and help us reach 1 million subscribers in the next 6 months. Now let's get back to it. So, what's the story behind this new discovery surrounding the Shroud of Turin? To understand its significance, we need to go back in time. The shroud gets its name because it has been preserved in the Chapel of Turin for generations. The earliest known records of the shroud date back to the 1300s when it was owned by a knight. It even survived a fire and unsuccessful repair attempts, eventually being housed in Turin in the 17th century. But what makes this seemingly ordinary piece of fabric so important that it has been cherished for centuries? The reason lies in the belief that the shroud is the very cloth used to wrap and bury the body of Jesus Christ, the central figure of Christianity. What's even more astounding is that the cloth bears a faint image of a man's face, which many believe is that of Jesus himself. Records of this cloth, with its mysterious image, have existed since the 1300s. The shroud and its image were largely forgotten until 1898, when an Italian photographer named Secondo Pia took a photograph of it. When Pia developed the negative, he made an incredible discovery: a clear, detailed image of a man with his arms crossed and eyes closed, instantly recognized as the likeness of Jesus. The resemblance between the figure on the shroud and traditional depictions of Christ was striking. You might wonder whether the shroud is mentioned in the Bible. While the Bible doesn't directly reference such a cloth, it does describe how Jesus was buried in a linen cloth provided by Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea, both members of the Sanhedrin and prominent religious figures. It's possible that the Shroud of Turin is this very cloth. After changing hands over the years, the shroud eventually came into the possession of a French knight named Geoffrey de Charny. It was later entrusted to the House of Savoy and eventually recognized as an important historical artifact, being handed over to the Catholic Church for safekeeping. One of the most significant efforts to investigate the shroud came in the 1970s, when a group of top scientists formed the Shroud of Turin Research Project, STURP. Skeptics initially suspected that the image of the man might have been painted and dismissed the shroud as a hoax. However, when the STURP team subjected the shroud to advanced imaging technology, they were stunned. The image wasn't a forgery. It was a genuine imprint of a man's body on the 14-foot-long cloth. The STURP team conducted several more tests, and their final report stated that the image was of a real human form, that of a scourged and crucified man. However, they remained uncertain about how the image was created. Since the STURP study, the mystery of the shroud has only deepened. Carbon dating was once used to challenge the authenticity of the Shroud of Turin. In tests conducted by 3 labs in Arizona, Switzerland, and Oxford, each produced dates suggesting the shroud originated from a time period far removed from when it was believed to exist. However, here's where things get interesting. The data from these labs was never directly released to the public. Instead, all the information we received came through secondary sources. It wasn't until a lawyer demanded public access to the original data that it became clear how inconclusive the findings really were. The radiocarbon dating didn't account for the mysterious imprint on the shroud, and there was still no explanation for how that image got there. The STURP team had already concluded that the image wasn't the work of an amateur artist or forger, but a genuine imprint of a man. Some scientists have theorized that creating such a vivid image on the cloth would have required a staggering 6.4 gigawatts of energy, an incredibly high amount. Despite the inconclusive results from past research, new tests using advanced X-ray imaging technology have produced astonishing findings. A team of 5 Italian scientists aimed to settle the question of the shroud's authenticity once and for all. While proving how the image was created remains elusive, they focused on determining the age of the cloth itself. Using a technique called wide-angle X-ray scattering, They analyzed the structural degradation of the linen to see if its age aligned with the time period when Jesus would have lived. Their findings were groundbreaking. When they tested a sample of the cloth, taken from the same area where the 1988 carbon dating had been done, the results showed that the linen could be dated to between 55 BC and AD 758. This strongly supports the possibility that the shroud is indeed as old as claimed. Unlike the 1988 study, which relied on the half-life decay of carbon-14, the new team focused on the natural aging of cellulose, a key component of linen. According to their research, the aging of the cellulose in the shroud suggests it is likely a relic that's about 2,000 years old. But the scientists didn't stop there. They also sought to investigate the mysterious imprint on the cloth. Remember, the shroud had been exposed to fire in the past. To understand how heat might affect the shroud, the researchers subjected their cloth sample to a thermal shock, heating it to 200 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes. Their goal was to see if the heat would erase any image on the fabric. What they found was surprising. The image on the shroud possessed unique qualities that allowed it to withstand the heat, even though a delicate fabric like linen would normally lose any imprint when exposed to such high temperatures. When the results were released, they shocked the world. The evidence suggested that the face of the wounded, disfigured man on the shroud might indeed be a genuine historical image. Many believed that the Shroud of Turin could truly represent the face of Christ. As technology has advanced, people around the world have recognized the potential for a more accurate reconstruction of his image. With the rapid development of artificial intelligence, tools now exist to digitally recreate what Christ might have looked like. When the shroud was analyzed using AI like Mid-Journey, the resulting image was eerily similar to the traditional depictions of Jesus, a man with long hair and a beard, bearing signs of severe trauma to the head and body, just as Christ would have experienced during his crucifixion. Others have replicated the experiment with similar outcomes, sparking renewed hope and excitement among believers globally. It seems that after Christ's resurrection, those who discovered his empty grave preserved the burial cloth, knowing that one day it would inspire believers worldwide. Though some initially suspected the shroud to be a medieval forgery, even small particles of pollen from the Middle East embedded in the fabric supported its authenticity. In an incredible turn of events, the shroud has shifted from being dismissed as a potential hoax to becoming one of the most significant pieces of evidence supporting Christ's existence. The Catholic Church has long venerated the shroud as one of the most important relics, symbolizing the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. Christians across the globe are celebrating the possibility that this once disputed artifact has been scientifically validated as genuine, affirming their faith in the risen Christ. For those who believed in the shroud's authenticity without any proof, this confirmation is a powerful reminder of their trust in a living God who rose from the grave. Yet the Bible reminds us that faith shouldn't be based on physical evidence alone. Jesus taught us, especially through the story of Apostle Thomas, that true faith comes from believing without seeing. Our confidence should rest in God's love, not solely in tangible objects that will eventually fade. While the shroud may be a profound symbol, Christians are called to place their faith in God's love and sacrifice rather than in relics. God took human form and came to this world to save us from eternal separation from him. We should live in gratitude for his sacrifice on the cross and seek to honor him daily. The Shroud of Turin, whether proven to be authentic or not, serves as a beautiful reminder to Christians everywhere of a God who loves them so much that he would die for them and has the power to bring them into eternal life. As the evangelist Billy Graham once said, God proved his love on the cross. When Christ hung, bled, and died, it was God saying to the world, I love you. If you've made it to this part of the video, you might be interested in joining our exclusive membership. By joining, you'll gain access to content we can't share publicly just yet. You'll be the first to see everything and discover deeper truths. To learn more, click the link on the left of the screen or check the pinned comment below.